The second reason we need to know about the data from the ocean is because that politically and economically, the oceans are still like the Wild West. It's the free-for-all out there, and Australia is responsible for 11% of it. And the current way we do it is expensive. It doesn't give 100% coverage, and it puts people in harm's way. And plus now with the coronavirus, it's just that little bit more difficult to monitor the ocean. So that's why we're here. Thanks to Defence Innovation Hub and the Australian Defence Force, we have a contract to build 5 of these. Beth is the first of 5 next generation blue bottles that will, over the next 2 years, be deployed to various areas of operation off Western Australia and Northern Territory to do different jobs. And those jobs are important. And if people say to me, what's the future hold? What's it going to look like in 2 years? Well, Ocius has lived Moore's law for the last 20 years, which is that things get better and half the cost every 2 years. So if you ask me where we're going to be in 2 years, I'll say we'll be twice as good as we are now. And the engineers will laugh at that. And that'll be an overestimation, I'm sure. But if you ask me where we're going to be in 10 or 15 years when the frigates and the subs come along, I don't think anybody here can predict where we're going to be, because Moore's law also has that miracle of compound interest with it, such that you put the grain of rice on the chessboard and it doubles each one. So if by the time we get to 10 or 15 years out, I don't think anybody's going to be able to predict where the sensors, these platforms, the intelligence on board, the AI, and the networking and the integration of this big data will be. And I would underestimate that. I don't think anybody here can estimate where that'll be. So that's why we're here at the University of New South Wales. We're based here. Thanks, Professor Ian, for coming. We are working on projects here every year for the last 4 years. We're also working with the Charles Darwin University, studying climate and oceanography. We're also working with Thales, with the arrays, to embed that into our system, so we've got a sovereign capability to do exciting things. We're working with the New South Wales government, the DIN project, and we've got a project going now to embed sensors into our sails to make the whole sail an array. And we're working with DST Group to use the blue bottle as a gateway node so that things in the air can talk to things under the water. So we're also working with a lot of people online who are helping us, their partners or their suppliers or subcontractors. And I want to thank everybody for helping us make this happen. And while I'm thanking people, I'd like to thank my crew. Lloyd Breckenridge is our chief engineer, and in the software world, you'd say he's a ×10 sort of person. And he ably leads the team with Peter Vladacek, our lead software engineer, who's probably primarily responsible for getting us the AMSA approval to run in the EEZ. And my team, Matt, Maddie, Ryan, Tom, Ruth, who's online, there's Kevin and Thomas, who are not here. But I'd like to thank them. I'd like to thank my board, Scott, Rick, and Andrew, for their support. And last but not least, thank my shareholders, who we wouldn't be here without them. Which brings me to thanking my chairman and Mark. It's a great pleasure to have you and Jill do the honours. Probably many people here don't need to be introduced to Mark, but Mark has been a shareholder in Ocius since 2000, and in 2013 he stepped into the role of chairman, filling some very big shoes from the ex-chairman, Honourable Bob Hawke, after whom we named the last blue bottle. So for those of you who don't know Mark, Mark was the CEO of 2 Australian mining companies and also the CEO of prestigious industry association, Australian Business, and also is an Olympic sailor representing us in 1972 and 76 at the Olympics, and is a world champion in 3 classes of boats, which I find a remarkable achievement. So with Mark's experience and knowledge, his help to us as a team and our board has been absolutely fantastic. For me, he's helped give a helicopter view of the company, and also he's also has the ability to come down and get hands-on in things that he knows something about. and I want you all to later admire the trailer, because Mark said to me in Mark said to me in 2017, "You're very busy building the boat. I will help you with the launch and recovery system, commonly known as a trailer." But what this does is it enables us to have 2 people driving a RTA registered car anywhere in Australia and launch the Bluebottle from a boat ramp. And our better funded competitors, and this is one of our unique selling features, as well as power and payload and the winch and other things. But our better funded competitors in America, they can't do that. They need a boat to take them out, or they need a massive crane. So Mark, thank you. And the last thing I'd say is, Mark, the other great pleasure of knowing you for the last 20 years is that my wife Susie and I have got to know Carolyn Elizabeth Bethwaite, and I think everyone we've ever spoken to and all agree that she was truly a remarkable woman. So on that note, and without further ado, I'll pass you the microphone.
Well, thank you, Robert. And it's a cold night. I was going to keep this short, but I've just put a line through half my speech. I'd like to reiterate Robert's welcome to people here tonight, and also those joining us online. It's a little disconcerting, small group here, but large group out there. So I will address myself to both as best I can. But a special welcome to Rear Admiral Lee Goddard, Head of Border Force. So you're most welcome, and thank you. Fred Hilmer, former VC of this university, is an apology, but we have with us the Chancellor of Sydney University, another great university. I can be even-handed because I'm an alumnus of both. And she's here in her role as chairman of Thales. We have the CEO of Thales in the form of Chris Jenkins, whom I've known for 20 years. Welcome, Chris. Adrian Turner, founding CEO of CSIRO Data 61. Dr. Stu Anstey, robotics lead, DST Maritime Underwater Group, and my fellow Ocius directors, Andrew Aitken, Rick Turner, and Robert, of course. I welcome those attending by Zoom. I am very proud to be chairman of Ocius, and I'd like to just say briefly why. Robert has introduced the team. They're along the balcony here and 1 or 2 down on the Lloyd. They are world beaters. They have produced, in the form of the USV out the front and out the back, which are the first 2 of the 5.8 metre version, the world's best USV. And I don't say that lightly. It is the world's best in terms of power, payload, and performance. It is a persistent platform, and our clients, our customers, can put onto that platform basically whatever they like. These guys are a really good team, and they have built a truly Australian sovereign defence capability. They know more about the design and construction, propulsion systems, launch and retrieval, operation and survivability, and where Beth is headed in our northern waters, that is going to be an attribute sorely tested. Surveillance devices and comms to and from the shore than anybody else in the world. And that is no small claim. It just happens to be true. The USVs that you see front and back of the building were the best. The only people who can improve on that is this team. And that is what they've done with Beth. USVs are ideal for the dull, dirty, dangerous work of the armed forces, whether it's in the air, on land, sea or undersea. And this vessel and its sisters is really well suited to surveillance. In time, they may become weaponized. Not yet. They are primarily surveillance platforms at the moment. So after commissioning and sea trials off Sydney, Beth and 4 of her sisters will head up to Darwin, COVID permitting. We are currently held up a little because of that, as COVID has disrupted all of our lives. That is the first stage of our current contract with Defence, but very much with Navy. And we are collaborating with Charles Darwin University, and Ruth Patterson from Charles Darwin is online. And welcome, Ruth. We have a $5.5 million contract in 3 areas of operations, and we will be deploying in the waters to the north and to the west of Australia. So Defence and Navy are our key clients, and it is actually a continuation of a wonderful relationship that I've had with Navy throughout my career. My first job, Lee, you'll be interested to know, was a Class 1 engineer in the Maritime Works Department of the Commonwealth Department of Works. And we were responsible for defence assets, for maintenance of defence assets in and around Sydney. In the late 60s, early 70s, I knew every square inch of Vickers Cockatoo, as it then was, Spectacle and Snapper Islands, HMAS Waterhen, Platypus, Penguin, Garden Island, of course, Cuttable, Watson. I think that about pulls. Oh, and Creswell. So that was a very enjoyable part of my career. Dealt very closely with the Navy, particularly the managers of those shore facilities. My second really close association with the Navy, I had the great good fortune to be the chairman of the National Maritime Museum for 6 years, 2001, 2007. A clause in the Constitution, sorry, in the Act, in the Federal Act setting up the Maritime Museum requires a senior serving naval officer to serve on that board. And we had Kevin Scarce, Jeff Geraghty, Peter Collins, and one other whose name I should recall. Ross Crane, how could I forget? Who went on to become Chief of Navy, serve on that board, and it was a true delight. We actually put a lot of time into the Naval Heritage Centre out on the tip of Garden Island, which I'm sure you're familiar with. So all those fine officers have had outstanding careers with the Navy. Kevin Scarce, in fact, went on to become Governor of South Australia. And now as Chairman of Ocius, I'm continuing that very close relationship with the Navy, and it is a distinct pleasure to do that. So now to the christening of Beth, and I guess there's an unspoken question in the middle of this room. Is this guy, this Chairman of Ocius, so ego-driven as to require this boat to be named after him? The answer is no. It is true that Beth is the first syllable of my surname. I won't apologise for that. But it's the last syllable of my late wife's second name. Why does it have to be a B? Well, I'm going to start an urban myth here. Robert, to whom I stand second and no man in terms of admiration, has a character flaw, and it is a fixation with the letter B. Now, I've read my children bedtime books. B is for bear, and I think Robert probably had an overdose of that. And as a baby, he might have been dropped on his bottom, but he does have this fixation with the letter B. So we have blue bottles, we have Bruce, Bob, and now Beth. And Robert, I think, twigged to the fact that Carolyn had a second name, and it's a long bow. It's a long bow, but he drew it, and before she died, he asked Carolyn if she would be amenable to having a USV named after her. She readily agreed, and so we are here tonight to christen Beth. I would like to ask you to have a glass in your hand, and it has become traditional at Ocius christenings to say the following words. So I'm going to say, and I'm going to ask you to repeat. This is an all-in-together exercise. God bless this ship, Beth. God bless this ship, Beth, and all those who don't sail in her. I'll trade you.
I'm not breaking it.
You're not good. Just it. Bravo. That's
Enough?
Yep, that's it.
Thank you. Cheers, David. Good luck. Good.
Please stay with us and enjoy drinks and canapes. Right. Pass that down.